Today I want to take a look at making a click and pad in Ableton Live. This is going to give us a count off, but no other guides. It has no track, and it's commonly used, at least I commonly use it, for traditional hymns. So if we take a look at the set for this week, you'll notice we have Victory in Jesus at the beginning. One of the first things we need is to look at the song info. I've clicked on the song in Planning Center, song here. This is a good way to keep track of the time signatures and tempo. In this case, 4/4, 106 beats per minute. We can adjust this in Ableton, but it's a really good idea to know it first. I'm going to switch over to Ableton Live here. And the first thing I'm going to do is open up one of my song templates in 4/4 time. I like using these song templates based off of the time signature because it makes all of these regions already be the right length. It works out pretty well. Let's take a quick look around what is in this template. I have an IAC driver. This sends MIDI information back into Ableton. This allows us to do automations such as repeats, toggle the click on and off, stop the track altogether when it's over. This next region connects to my pedal. It plays the same MIDI note. Very useful. I have a click track here. This is when a song comes with a built-in click. That's where I put it. Most of the time, though, I will be using Ableton's built-in click, which is found up here in the top left. Probably the most important track here is the tempo track. This region will actually set the tempo. It will automatically control Ableton's built-in tempo. I have a guide track. This is when a song comes with an audio guide. I put it there. This is my markers track, used to keep track of where we are in a song. For a simple click and pad like this, it won't be quite as important. If we have an original track, it goes here. And this final one is a MIDI track, which is for the guide cues. This is the voice that can do count-offs, keep track of where we are in a song. And in a click and pad, this count-off right here is the only one we're going to use. So the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to save this template as a new song. We'll call it Victory in Jesus. I don't want to keep it as a part of my template project. Otherwise, all the audio files will stack together. So I'm going to come out into my song files here. I also like to note the key we're in, which is G. And when I'm doing a click and pad, I really like to notate that this is a click and pad. It is not a full track. I've saved that here. Now we are in Victory in Jesus. One of the first things I like to do is, again, this is the master track that sets our tempo. To keep track of where we are in a set, I really like to name this after the song, key, time signature, and tempo. This is just a label. It doesn't actually change anything. I will often color code a song, again, just to help us keep track of where we are. When we click on this, we need to make sure that warp is on. That lets us change the length and among other things. We want this to lead the tempo, and I'm going to set our tempo at 106. To apply that, usually I have to turn lead on and off, and you'll see the time has adjusted and that Ableton's metronome is set to 106 beats per minute. If I were to play this from the beginning, let me move this pad loop here because that's where the loop actually starts. I'm going to toggle on our metronome. You should hear that we have a metronome going. No pad yet. And if I zoom out here, I have a repeat region here. And this just about minute long loop will keep going permanently. This is where we want our pad. You'll see we have a count off here. And then we'll move into another loop here for our song. First, let's put the pad in. I have a collection of pads here from Church Front. We're in the key of G. So I'm going to grab a G pad from Church Front and put it here starting at the beginning. You'll notice this pad has a bit of a ramp up time. That's why I loop to here, typically about 4 or 5 measures in. If I were to loop back to the beginning, the pad would get very, very quiet at every loop. Most of the time, I will name that channel after the song. Victory in Jesus. I find these pads to be extremely loud. I almost always cut them to negative 25 decibels. Now we can listen to this from the beginning. You'll hear the pad come in. It gets about 9 seconds to develop, and now we're in the loop. When it reaches this repeat, it'll jump back to this marker. The repeat is actually an automation of the previous marker button. You will see it jump back. Let's jump ahead here. It hits the repeat, and it's going to jump back. You can actually watch that happen here. If I zoom out, you'll see this green flash. And now we have a pad loop. This helps set up a song, be ready to go beforehand. And whenever it's time to start the song, we trigger the next marker. That'll skip past the repeat and play our count off. Let's give that a try.
1, 2, intro, 2, 3, 4.
Awesome. So now we're ready to actually create our song loop. Most of the time, I will actually kill the pad for that because we don't necessarily want the pad playing the entire time. You could easily have it there if you want. So I'm deleting the extra pad here. I'm going to give this a 2 measure fade out. I selected 2 measures, hit create fade out. That gives me a fade out time. And then I'm going to create a new locator. And I'm going to call this a song loop. I will often label this song start after the name of the song. I'm also going to put a 1 here because I'm going to set up a number 1 trigger for it. So this is 1, Victory in Jesus, which I will probably spell correctly eventually. If I click the key triggers button here, you'll notice this is already labeled with a 1 from my template. So now I have 2 ways to trigger this song. My pedal, which is selected to next, or I can hit the number 1 on my keyboard.
1, 2, intro, 2, 3, 4.
Now that it's counted off, that tapers off. And now we're in the actual song loop. Usually, so this isn't triggering too many MIDI commands, I will go ahead and give it about 1 minute at a time. I'm going to copy my repeat command here, move it to about 2 measures in. I'm going to create a new locator here, which would actually be triggering the next song if we were in a full set. It's not really necessary here. I can delete the extra tempo controller here. And we are just about done. So I've got Victory in Jesus. I've labeled that blue. I like to apply the same blue color here and move that on assign track color to clips. And now I know that the blue section is Victory in Jesus. In a full set, we'd move on there. So we've got really 4 sections here. The first few measures is the ramp up of the pad. I can use my markers track to help keep track of where we are. So I will often, I'm going to option drag this over I can label this pad start. Then I have a pad loop is the next section. That's about a minute long loop with a repeat. I have a song start or count off here. And then I can option drag that again and have a song loop, in this case with no pad. Let's take a look at this whole thing, and I believe we are ready to go. I can hit my 0 key here, start at the beginning, hit play. Pad warms up. Takes about 10 seconds to get there. And now we're in the pad loop. I'm gonna zoom back in a bit. And we can stay here for a few minutes as we read a scripture or set up the song. It gives us buffer time with a pad. We can play on top of it, talk on top of it. It's pretty useful. And then I can either hit my pedal, which connects to the next marker, or I can hit the number 1 key to start the next song.
1, 2, intro, 2,
There's our count
3,
off.
4.
The pad fades down, so it's not playing for the whole song. It could, but I found it to be a bit noisy when it drums on for too long. And now we are in our song loop. It doesn't have to be this long. I suppose if we wanted to, it could probably be just a few measures, but I don't like the idea of it triggering a MIDI command every 20 seconds or every 5 seconds, so I give it about a minute. And now we have a clicked pad. That's the whole thing there.